Hey everyone, welcome back. Happy Wednesday tonight. So today's going to be filled with a lot of maybe opium, but just a lot of signs that I'm seeing of things that are going to be good for Bitcoin going forward, miners as well. There's a bunch of news stories. I'm not even going to go through them all right now because there's just so much to cover here tonight. Not much news from the miners as far as actual updates or anything like that, but we do have a lot of other stuff that's happening out there. The Fed, Bitcoin Reserve. There's a lot. We'll get to it all as always. Thank you so much for coming in as always as well. But you guys know the drill, right? This is not financial advice. For entertainment only, do your own research. Full disclosure below that. Hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out tremendously. And let's take a look at what's going on here with Bitcoin. Bitcoin did pretty good today along with the miners for the most part. Bitcoin was up a little bit here today. It was up 2.43%. The miners kind of underperformed what Bitcoin did today though. But Bitcoin's still above 100,000. That's a good sign. It's up a little bit now in the new day for Thursday. It's up again here to almost a half a percentage point. It's up to 104,276. I mean, we're doing pretty good. It's not that bad. We're not crashing down or anything like that. After everything that's happened here recently in the last couple of days with DeepSeek and all that stuff. But again, the miners didn't do too bad today. They were up in the green today. Not as much as I would have liked to have seen them go up, with Bitcoin being up, what was it, almost 3% or something like that, 2.5%. But MicroStrategy was up a little bit today, 1.58%. Bitfarms was up 2.86% as well on the day. BitTier was up 2.7%. Cypher up a little bit, 0.2%. Cleanspark was up 2%. CORZ was up 1.3%. Hive was up 2.8%. HUD-A was up 2.5%. IREN was the only one that was actually down, 0.99%. Mara was up 0.88%. Riot was up 2.4%. Wolf was up almost 2% as well. So they kind of more or less followed suit with Bitcoin, just a little bit under it. A couple that have overperformed a little bit was maybe Hive up 2.87 and Bitfarms 2.8 compared to what Bitcoin did. So everybody else was just in line with Bitcoin or a little bit under it. So it wasn't that bad. On the smaller miners, we had any that was down. Everybody else was in the green here. Nothing major that we saw here happening on that. The ETFs were up also today. We had the Fed. We got to talk about the Fed here in a second as well. There's just a lot of stuff happening here. Tesla also provided their results and everything else. Tesla was down on the day, but up in the after hours as well. What else do we have here? NVIDIA was down. Yeah, somewhere down, somewhere up, somewhere sideways, whatever it was. But let's get into some of the stories that we have here to talk about. And we'll look at, obviously, Bitcoin here for the month of January. It is still up. Let me make sure that's the latest data we got on 8.41%. Is that still the case? 11.2% for January. So not bad. A couple more days left to go in January. We might actually end up in the green here a little bit. We'll take any kind of greens that we can get, as always. But a lot of stories that we do have here. Fed, obviously neutral today on the rate cuts, or really no rate cuts. They're going to keep the rate at the same position there. He did point out something else, which we'll get into here shortly as well. But I'm going to call this new segment here. Maybe we'll do this more often, I think. This is going to be breaking news. You're not bullish enough on Bitcoin or the Bitcoin miners, I think. So let's get into it here with the first one here. The first one is my home state of Illinois. State Representative John Cabello introduces legislation for a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Another state that's just adding it on. I mean, we're up to like 20 states now with that are looking into doing the SBRs. So it's just adoption continuing on. It's not sustained. It's not slowing down or anything like that. It's just a continuation. We're hearing like one or two new states coming online like almost every other day now, or every day it seems like. It's just a lot going on here. So it's all bullish news. Texas, Lieutenant Governor announces Bitcoin Reserve as priority bill for 2025. Right? We're not bullish enough on this stuff. Think about all the states that would get Bitcoin on as an SBR. How much are they going to buy potentially going forward? What is it going to do to the the price of Bitcoin, Bitcoin miners as well? We're not bullish enough on this stuff. The miners haven't been great for the most part all of last year, right? Some have done better than others, but for the most part, they haven't been that great, right? Next here is also, let's see, on Ingram Angle, Fox News, David Sachs was asked about the strategic Bitcoin reserve in light of lieutenant governors making it a legislative priority in Texas. Senator Loomis has a federal bill ready to go, right? They're still working on this, but that's going forward as well. A lot more adoption, right? I think the states were going to get it first, the SBR, and then eventually the United States as a whole will do it as well. But it's going to take a little bit of time to get the SBR bill through the House and the Senate, and then onto the president's desk. So there's still more talk and more dealings going on in the back rooms there. Okay. Again, not bullish enough here. How many states are looking to do a Bitcoin strategic reserve? Well, Grok came back with at least 20 states right now that it could find right now. That's great news there. And then check this out. Breaking head of the Czech Central Bank wants to buy billions of dollars in Bitcoin. The central bank head is pushing to invest 5% of the nation's 146 billion reserves into Bitcoin. 5% of that is going to be what, 5 billion, almost $7.5 billion into it. So, right, baby steps, but you're getting more and more of these baby steps where it's just becoming a, maybe that's not the right analogy. It's kind of like a snowball, right? A snowball at the top of the hill. It's pretty small, but once you let that sucker roll and it rolls down the hill, then it gets larger and larger and larger. That's kind of what we're seeing here with all this stuff that's happening here around Bitcoin adoption, putting it on SPRs, everything else. It's just great news for us. And yet we're still crying about the miners not doing well. Well, I understand why. If you bought them at a higher price, yes, you're going to be happy with it. But if you bought them at much lower prices or earlier on, you're probably still doing really well. I mean, if you look at where they were just at the bottom of December of 2022 and where they are right now, most of these guys are up 4, 5x, even 7x. Some of these guys might be. So it just depends on when you get into them. Is big story there. Next story here. Huge news for MicroStrategy. I don't think it's only huge news for MicroStrategy. I think it's also huge news for the Bitcoin miners themselves that have a hodl position there. With the new FSB rules, Tesla marked up its BTC holdings, booking a 650 or 600 million gain, pushing shares up 4.2 after hours and adding in nearly $50 billion in market cap. Just think what happens when MicroStrategy, Bitcoin miners as well, with a large hodl position follow suit with the FSB, which they have been already, but that should be really good for the EPS numbers for them going forward. We're not bullish enough on this stuff. We'll get into that in a second here. Next on the docket here is breaking. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell says banks are perfectly able to serve crypto customers. So that's a change from what we've seen in the prior administration. The banks can now, I don't know exact details of it, but I do know that the banks can now hold crypto or Bitcoin, crypto, whatever, for their customers there, be custodies of it. They just need to make sure that they have safeguards in place and things like that, or everything else, right? Complete change in mindset and everything else from what we've seen here in the past 4 years with the prior administration, right? We're not being bullish enough. And then last story that we have here, this was kind of interesting. This is more not so much on the we're not being bullish enough, but this could go either way, I guess. So J.R. Lewis posted on X today that Riot investment firm DGHI has built a position in Riot Platforms and may push it to make changes. Two sources familiar with the matter said making it the second activist shareholder to do so. Right. The other one was, I'm trying to think of the other one that was in there. Starboard, I think, was the first one that got into it as well. Starboard was the one that pushed Riot to basically suspend Bitcoin mining operations, suspend the growth in Bitcoin mining operations and focus on getting an HPCI customer potential. They're working with a consultancy firm there to see if there's any interest, to see if they can find some customers there, right? Reuters could not determine the size of DGHI's stake in Riot. Representatives for Riot and DGHI, which oversees $70 billion in assets, declined to comment. So my concern here, and maybe it's unwarranted, but you got two activists and shareholders now going into Riot. They might be looking to clean house a little bit in there. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but that's obviously one concern there is maybe, I'm not saying that's the case. I'm saying typically what we see here with activists and investors is they like to clean house, change things around, and maybe Jason might be one of those things that they might be looking to change. So we'll have to wait and see how this plays out, but that's definitely not good. If I was Jason, I would not be happy with this move because then now you got outside parties telling you basically what they want you to do. And if they have enough shares and everything else like that, they could do some things. So just wanted to point that out there as well for all you Riot investors in there. It seems like they want them to go more into HPCI and things like that. But is the demand there for it all, right? We just don't know that. Yeah, everybody's talking about demand for HPCI. We saw what happened with, the new one that came out, I can't never remember, DeepSeek, right? And if the allegations there are truthful, right? If they were able to do this for much less cost, much less older machines and things like that, then there might be some issues there as far as what we can do. But I think in the long run, it's still going to be great for the industry nonetheless, because if you can do with much less, you can do more. So I think there's a lot of still good to come from the HPCI industry nonetheless going forward. But how many, I guess you could say, for that size, I think 600 megawatts that they have left, how many hyperscalers would actually be interested in that kind of a site? And would they want to, I mean, I just don't know. All right, this past year, we've only seen Core get a nice deal with CoreWeave. TeraWulf got a pretty nice deal. BitDigital has gotten a pretty nice deal, and that's about it. Everybody else has gotten these kind of smaller deals that they're working there on, but that's about it. So we'll see how that goes, okay? But that's all I got for you guys today. Just a lot of good news for Bitcoin, possibly also that's going to translate over to Bitcoin miners going forward. And just wanted to kind of throw that out to you guys, get your take on it as well, on all this stuff here. I think it was good with the Fed, just basically leaving the interest rates where they were. It was a good thing they didn't raise them, right? It would have been nice if they lowered them, but staying where we are, and they're going to monitor the situation there, I think that's fine. Let's see where things take us in the next couple of months, and we'll see where we go, right? They said everything's on the table as far as lowering interest rates. They're going to keep an eye on the economy, everything else, the jobs. Their mandate is to have low inflation and, as many jobs as possible out there. So we'll see. All right, but that's it. That's all I got for you guys on this. I got nothing else. Let's get into Q&A, see if you guys have any questions on this stuff or anything else. The miners, I have my spreadsheets pulled up as well. And we'll go through anything that you guys have here. But as always, if you guys could preface the questions with a question mark, I'm going to scroll back up a little bit here and see what we got as far as questions, if any, at this point. I know we're going kind of early today compared to where we normally go. Bear with me here while I try to read through some of the questions, maybe comments as well. Let's see here. Andre says that I need a sidekick, and Andre says, with my charm and good looks, we may attract a bigger audience. Andre, if you're interested in it, let me know. Let's see. Kepers is asking, are you retiring after the miners rip? No, I'll still be doing this. I enjoy doing this stuff, but we may branch out into other things as well. Let's see. Will CORZ be impacted from the China AI? I don't believe so. CORZ already has the deal with CoreWeave. It's signed for 12, 13 years, I think it's now. The billions are in there. They're accounted for. Basically, it's just, the only concern there would be obviously with CoreWeave. Would they have any issues going forward, getting funding, or even going through an IPO later on this year as well? And I don't think they're going to have a problem getting customers and things like that. Because this space is definitely going to be growing here for the next 10, 15, 20 years. So I'm not worried about that. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to find some questions, comments. Kim says, thanks, Seb. As always, your great coverage. So thank you very much. I greatly appreciate you coming in as always. So thank you for that. Okay, there we go. Question, do you think of accumulating some Hive? It is showing amazing growth, 25 exahash, HPC, 30 million and more to come, and most undervalued thoughts. It is the most undervalued. Yeah, with them now getting to 25 exahash by the end of September, Q3, it's looking really, really good. It's looking a lot better than what it was just a day or two ago when I was only getting to like 15 exahash, right? So I definitely love seeing the growth here. They are way undervalued for not only their operations, they have a hodl position there as well. They do have some HPC AI business as well that they're generating on there. So there's a lot of good things happening for them. I think the catalyst for them would be the, not transition, but moving over to the United States for headquarters. That might bring in some more interest from big institutions and things like that, along with getting them maybe on some indexes as well, maybe other ETFs, things like that, whatever it might be. So that might be good for the stock there. What else can I say? It's on my mind. I had them from 2017 through 2022, I think, is when I sold them last. Or actually 2023 was when I sold them out, when I got out of them completely. But I had them for a long time there. They were definitely one of the ones that I thought were the best ones. Plus, they've also been one of the longest ones out there. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think they're doing everything right now. Let's see. Will Hive 5x because I bought 25,000 Hive shares today? Nice. There's a possibility that it could do that. Bitcoin goes up to 200,000, 250,000, whatever it might be. There might be a possibility that it gets 5x. Okay. What is going on with Cypher? Stock price really underperforming. I mean, they're still doing all the things that they said they're going to be doing, buying sites, growing those sites out as well. They have a large portfolio of megawatts that they can build out as well. I think the growth story is the thing that might be keeping the stock down maybe a little bit, or at least not performing as well. But none of the stocks have been performing well here recently. What I mean by that is a lot of their growth is going to be in the second half of 2025 and into 2026 as well. They said they have also some interest for some of their sites from HPCI business, so we'll have to wait what comes out of that as well. But I think it's just patience. What are your thoughts on Bitfarms dumping the international route for more of U.S. based? I think that's Ben taking the helm at Bitfarms here, right? Before it was the prior CEO and the prior board members that were probably pushing Bitfarms to go into that area. He's kind of transitioning the company back into more U.S. focused, where there's a lot more capital, a lot more interest, right? So for HPCI, maybe even for Bitcoin mining, right? You're seeing with states getting SPRs, everything else. So I think that might be also a good way to go. And time will only tell on that. But they got to execute. They got to grow. They got to do all those things quickly. If this is a similar cycle like we had in the past, we're looking like the cycle peak might be around September, October this time. And then we're going into bear market. Now, if it's an extended cycle, then that's a different story. We might be going up for 2, 3, 4 years. And then they got all the time in the world, but you still want to build out as fast as you can. Let's see here. Hello, sub. If you could DCA only into a single miner this month between Cleanspark and IREN, which one would you choose and why? Thanks. I would say it might be with Cleanspark. Operations-wise, they're both pretty much the same. Great operations there, so there's no concern there from that. The only thing that Cleanspark, I think, might have an advantage on is the HODL position, where IREN does not have anything. So that might be the thing that kind of pushes me over the line to go more into Cleanspark. IREN, though, has the possibility with maybe getting an HPCI hyperscaler involved in one of their sites. So that's an unknown. We have a known with Cleanspark. We have an unknown with IREN with the I'm speaking too fast. HPCI. If they can materialize something out of that, that would be a good catalyst for it, I think. So, but they're close otherwise, if it wasn't for those two things. Let's see. Question: are you going to say "I told you so" after the miners do great this year? I'm going to try to put it in a nicer way, maybe, than "I told you so." Fingers crossed. Hopefully, that is the case. That ends up being later on this year that the miners do actually really great going forward here. Because this past year, it wasn't great. Okay, is this a good time to enter CORZ? Are they still doing very well? Any further updates about the expansion? I heard the news that the insider from CORZ sold 400,000 shares as well. Appreciate thoughts. CORZ is still doing great, right? They're on track to start getting revenue from CoreWeave here in the beginning of the first half, I believe, of the year. So that should help out there tremendously for them. And they're still looking for other sites. They're looking to expand. They still have the potential to buy newer miners from Block, change out some of the older ones that they have there. So that's going to be a good thing as well. So there's a lot of things going on. As far as insiders sold 400,000, I would have to look into it, but I would think that might be for like tax reasons. I could be wrong on that, but it might be tax reasons, or unless he actually sold that and it was a predetermined sell. Sometimes these guys do these price gets to this point, or XYZ, in this time frame more or less, they sell it. So that way they're not being accused of doing a insider sales or not selling based on insider information. Let's see. IREN has been down almost 35%. Are you concerned about their dilution and HPCI projects? No, everybody got beaten down. That wasn't just IREN. It was, Core got beaten down. Wolf got beaten down because of BitDeer. It's not them. It's just the whole market overreacted to DeepSeek. So, yeah. The question, Trump wants BTC mined in America. NCL Cleanspark met Trump at Mar-a-Lago last year. Do you think Loomis and Trump would work to give tax advantages to American miners? Maybe, I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's going to be a tough one. Because then you're kind of singling out a single industry against another industry or every other industry as well. So I don't know if that would happen based on that. Okay. What is IREN's growth target for this year? I believe it's like 56, 57 exahash is what I believe they're targeting here. Question, what are the chances that we don't see the parabolic high until sometime in 2026? Historically speaking, we would hit the high right around like September, October's. It seems like it's been moving down a month because the halving event has also been moving out a month, right? So based on that, I would think it would be right around there. But if this is going to be a different cycle, then, I mean, why not 2027 even, where we hit the top? Could it be that Bitcoin does the same thing like gold did when they got the ETFs? Went up for, several years at that point. Okay. Who is the first miner to report who can take advantage of FASB? It'll be good to test to see how the market reacts to this for future miner earnings. The first one I think is going to be either Cleanspark or Hive. I don't believe Hive can do it yet unless they actually get moved over into Texas for their headquarters. If they can do that, and then they can do all the books and gap accounting rules and things like that, then maybe it's going to be toss-up between those two, who can report first. But I think it might be Cleanspark there. Okay, let's see. Seb, if the Bitcoin miners do great, remember the adage on the naysayers: when you lose, say little; when you win, say less. Say even less. I know you think that way already. Yeah, I agree. Right? I'm not going to smudge it in somebody else's face, right? But they were bearish. I was more bullish on it. We'll definitely see the difference. I think we'll see it in the prices of the miners and everything else. So I'm hoping that's going to play out that way, right? But based on the last 12 months, I can see why people are down on it and thinking that the miners won't do that great. But I mean, everything else that we're seeing here that we talked about here just earlier, adoption, this, state doing this, another state doing that. It's just countries looking to put Bitcoin on the strategic Bitcoin reserve. So there's just a lot of adoption happening here right now. We had a little bit black swan event here with DeepSeek Monday that brought down a lot of the miners that were in HPCI. And maybe they needed that. Maybe they were just a little bit overpriced, overhyped on HPCI potential there. So it kind of brought them back down to a more norm. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm going to be, what do they call it? A gracious winner, I guess you could say, if that happens, if that's the case. Okay. Let's see. Between Cleanspark and IREN, which one was most diluted? They both diluted a lot. I don't know which one diluted more, but we can take a look at the numbers here that we have for them. Here, let's go back here. So if we go here, I have the numbers for the shares for the quarters here. Where is it at? So Cleanspark, let's see here, had 50 million shares roughly at the end of Q3 2022. They are now at 300 million shares roughly at the end of Q3 in 2024. So 2 years later, they diluted approximately 200 million shares, 250 million shares, right? At that point that we can see here. But we also got pretty good growth from that. Where were they at here? Let's see here. Ending hash rate, they were at 2.8 exahash, and they've finished out the year, or finished out at 27. So 10x growth, basically. On that one, if we look at IREN here, let's see if we got IREN, all the data on that one as well. IREN, going back to, IREN's a little tougher because before they provided like every 6 months biannual reporting. So it's not going to be maybe as apples to apples, but they were at 66 million shares and they're at 200 million shares here as of Q1, which was at the end of Q3 here. So they've also diluted quite a bit there as well. Maybe a little bit less than Cleanspark has done. And they ended up at 21 exahash, and they were back at fiscal year end 2023 at 5.5 exahash. But then remember, they also returned like 3 exahash machines that were part of their special purpose vehicles loans that they use there. So that brought them down, and they had to work back up to rebuild that over time as well. Okay, so kind of similar. So as far as where they started and where they're going. We'll have to wait and see what they actually provide here for Q4 numbers. But yeah, both have diluted a lot. But they've grown a lot also, so you get something for it at least. And we've definitely gotten a lot of growth from these guys here. Now let's go back here. Okay, let's see, next one here. I can't tell why BTC is going up. It seems to be because saying banks and Bitcoin is A-OK. Is that it? One is, I think the Fed not raising rates was a good sign. Keeping rates where they are right now, just keeping an eye on things. I think that was a good catalyst because you kind of saw that Bitcoin started to go up when the news was coming out right around that same time. So I think that was the major catalyst there. The banks, yeah, I think that also will help, but the banks are going to be cautious because, they're dealing with a lot of people's money and things like that. They're going to be cautious because they're naturally historically cautious, except for when it came to subprime mortgages in 2008. Got a little greedy there. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. How much has total network hash rate grown during this cycle? The ASICs keep getting more efficient, so every exahash of growth isn't the same. Let's see, where can I pull that up here? This cycle, so you're talking from like the halving event to now, or maybe we can see, where is it at? It's this one over here. So here's all right, let's take a look at this one, this chart. This is going back, let me see, we're going 3 years, total hash rate. Let's go all. Okay, so this is a total network hash rate on Bitcoin going all the way back down to whenever Bitcoin started mining here, whenever that was, back in 2011, I think, or 2009. It was slow growing there. And then, let's see here, from 2020 to 2024, we've seen a huge increase. So we were at basically, let's see, this is December, so roughly at 100 exahash on the network hash rate from 2020. Then we had the exodus here out of China that brought us, we were up to almost 174, 178 exahash. We had the exodus out of China to get us down to 87 exahash. And then up to 2024, December, we went up basically to 500 exahash. So that was a 5x growth in 4 years. In this cycle here, let's go 3 years maybe on it. Let's see, February, we've had some growth here. Let's see, we had February, where was it? April. April is when we had the halving event roughly. We went down a little bit. We were at 633 roughly, 650 exahash during the halving event. Then we came down from that and we've bottomed out at 553 and then we've come back up. So 650 to, where are we now? This is on, let's do 30-day average. Kind of evens it out a little bit. 785, so we've gone up roughly, 130 exahash or something like that, just this year alone. And yeah, you're right, that the efficiencies in the miners are going to be a huge growth in the network hash rate. You're going to need less miners, obviously, to reach 1 exahash. I mean, just going back to when I started mining, back in 2017, you needed like 72,000 of the S9s to get to 1 exahash. Now you need like 5,000 of these miners to get to 1 exahash. Huge difference there, right? So the growth efficiencies and everything else, the speed, the watts, the joules per terahash efficiencies, all of that stuff is having an impact where you can have less machines and a higher network hash rate. So the miners this coming cycle, when they start refreshing their miners again, I mean, we could, jump up relatively quickly again, do another, 2x, 3x on top of it from where we are right now in 2024. So if in 2024 we finished out roughly at about 800 exahash, by next cycle we could be at, in 4 years, in 2028, somewhere around, I would say, maybe around like 2,400 exahash, somewhere around there maybe, give or take a little bit, based on just what we've seen here recently. I hope that kind of makes sense. Hopefully answers your question there. Let's see. All right. Do you think it's bullish for Riot that companies are buying it because they don't think management is doing a good job? Do I think it's bullish? Well, that's if the companies that are investing in them, if they are correct, right? If they believe that there's more to be made out of HPC AI business, data centers, things like that, okay, then maybe they're correct there. But if they're pushing towards that and they don't actually get anything for it, then it's a wasted time there, where you could have been building out for Bitcoin mining. So time will tell on that one. That's tough to say right now. Let's see. What is your price target for IREN if BTC goes to 150,000? How about Cleanspark? 150,000, that's only 50% from where we are right now. I would think the miners would do at least a 2x. So you're looking at both of those guys being probably in the 20s, something like that. 2025, maybe somewhere around there. Cleanspark might actually do a little bit better because they have a HODL position there, right? IREN doesn't have a HODL position. And then IREN could possibly get a HPCI deal with Hyperscaler there. So that could also drive the stock up. So it's tough. Not that easy to tell. Which miners were back in 2017? How many BTC miners got pumped in that cycle? Well, there were a lot of miners that weren't public. We had Hive, Hut 8, I think, that was public at that point, but they were trading on the Toronto Stock Exchange. Bitfarms went in there as well in 2018, I believe it was. Some smaller miners, DMG, Digihost also. Then you had some of the bigger players come out, Marathon, Riot, later on as well. How much were they mining? Well, at that point, they were mining. Where were we at that point? Was it? I think we were at 25 BTC per block reward. But Bitcoin price was much lower at that point. I remember when I was getting into Bitcoin mining, the S9 for a number of months, I think it was like almost 6 or 7 months, maybe even higher than that, where you were generating $35 per miner, which is a lot, right? Right now, you're per day. Right now, you're looking at some of these miners are making between $5 and $14, something like that. I haven't looked at it recently, but it was huge revenue there at that point. So, and that might return here for the miners as Bitcoin goes up to 200,000, 250,000 as well. Might get, I don't know if it's going to get back to $35 or not, but it's going to get close to it. But that was huge revenues there, but it took a lot of machines also. But the network hash rate was lower there, but it was profitable for pretty good number of months there. As far as, what was the other part of it? How many miners, talked about that already. How many X per BTC miners got? I think I covered your question there. Let's see. Is there a WGMI short ETF? That, I don't know. You would think there would be one for it, but I'm not sure that there is. Maybe somebody knows here. All right. Question. My point is, it isn't a fair comparison to suggest that 10x dilution to give 15x hash rate is not proof of accretiveness. You'd have to look at the total share of the network and profitability. You have to go back to where it was back then, where it is now, right? To kind of make more apples to apples comparisons there. So, yeah, I would agree with you there. Do you think Bitfarms would be better if they took more time to determine future direction than change direction halfway through? Did management use their mulligan when they bought 5,000 Bitcoin? That was the prior management, yeah. And then they had to sell it because they had BTC-backed loans. And Bitcoin went down crashing, right, in 2022. So a lot of companies learned from that, I believe, that they're not doing Bitcoin-backed loans. But that was different management again. So you also have a different board, more or less, right now. So that board and that management was going in one direction, and now we have new management, a new CEO, and a different board, and they're going in a different direction. So, and I think that might be the better direction to go, but we'll see. Let's see. If every dollar of dilution was used to purchase spot Bitcoin instead of miners at prices at that time, would these companies have done better? Well, depending on that would be a tough thing to do. Depending on when they were buying it, if you're buying every day instead of mining it every day. Remember, these guys can mine it at a much lower cost than what you get at spot right now. So, I don't know. I don't think that would work out that way. At least, I don't think so. But you would have to run the numbers on it. That would be tough. Okay. When do the miners typically peak? Before or after BTC top? Usually about a week to 2 weeks before the Bitcoin tops. That's at least what happened last cycle. We'll see if it happens again this cycle. Why do the miners get 90% of Bitcoin's downside and like a small fraction of its upside? That is maddening. Not always. There are times when it does happen like that. I know it feels like it because when things are going down, things are not good. But when Bitcoin's going up, we're like, hey, hooray! We're not really watching it. But there's been plenty of times here where we saw Bitcoin go up 3%, 4%, whatever it is, and the miners go up 10, 12, 15%. So we still see that here happening right now. Okay, let's see here. Google is how to stop a short from borrowing your shares. A way to avoid having your shares borrowed by shorts is to set a high high sell limit. Yeah, I've heard that someplace too. Does that actually work though? Or is that just one of those theories there? Let's see. Maybe we can short squeeze these guys. The shorters, maybe. I mean, a lot of these guys are being shorted 20% plus. Okay, talked about that already. Yeah. Okay. I think we're pretty much caught up here. At least I'm all caught up with your guys' questions and comments here. So we're actually doing pretty good today. Let's see here. Got one more here from Christian coming in. Let's see, what's that one? Got my populate. There it is. Let's see here. Owning spot BTC requires no staff, no power, and no change outs. Yeah, I think that's, for like everybody that wants to invest. I think getting BTC is probably the easiest thing to do. Buy it, dollar cost average into it. I have it. I've done that in the past. But if you're trying to amass a lot, you have to run the math on it, right? So, but then do you actually sell it towards the top, or do you hold on to it and write it all the way down? So then you're talking about opportunity costs as well. And you could possibly run the numbers on it, but it would take a while to do that, I think. All right, yeah, we're done. I don't see any other questions coming in here. So again, right, I think we're not being as bullish as we should be on everything that's happening here, especially all the stuff that we talked about here, states, countries, companies. Companies now have the FASB rules that they can take advantage of. That gives it a better taste, I think, in the mouths of chief financial officers at these companies that they can do that. So there's just a lot more going on here. Be patient, I think. Be bullish, because there is a lot of bullish stuff happening here in Bitcoin and the miners as well. It's just time. Time sometimes takes a little while. So that's it. I'll leave it at that. But we'll see what happens tomorrow as well with the miners. We got, 2 more days here to go before the new month. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. We'll see what happens with the markets, the miners, everything else. We'll cover it all. If we have any more good stories on adoption going forward and things like that, I'll point those out to you guys as well, and we'll dive into it all. But again, thanks so much for coming in here as always. Hope you guys have a great night, a great rest of your week. We're past the halfway point. We got 2 more days to go, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.